welcome back. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready.
Awesome. Well, today we're going to be tackling something pretty crucial in the world of clinical trials, something that can really make or break a trial, and that's cost prediction. And no, we're not talking about pulling numbers out of a hat. We're talking about using real-time data to get some seriously sharp forecasting.
Sounds intense.
Oh, it is. But luckily, we've got a great guide to help us through this. We're looking at an article by the Global Costing Task Force. And these folks are speaking directly to, well, people just like you, clinical trial financial management teams.
Right.
And the article, it jumps right into a pain point that I think we're all familiar with, the fact that budgets, well, they can kind of go haywire sometimes, right?
Yeah.
Especially if we're relying on old information.
Exactly. Like trying to navigate with an outdated map.
Totally. And it's frustrating. You miss deadlines, got to scramble for resources, nobody's happy. So how do we fix it? How do we get on the right track with these budgets?
Well, the article dives right into this concept of fair market value data, or FMV.
FMV. Okay, so break that down for us.
Sure. Basically, it's all about understanding the true cost of everything involved in your clinical trial.
Everything.
Everything from lab tests to patient recruitment. And we're talking about factoring in all the things that influence those costs in today's market.
Okay, so it's like instead of looking at what a procedure cost 5 years ago, we're looking at what it costs right now.
Right, you got it. And you're thinking about things like inflation, demand, and even, this is important, regional differences.
Okay, so you're telling me that FMV takes into account that a procedure might cost way more in, say, New York City than it would in a more rural area.
Exactly. It helps you understand those little nuances, and that's really powerful when you're trying to build an accurate budget.
It sounds like it. But here's my question. If this FMV data is so powerful, so useful, why isn't everyone using it?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's not always easy. There are definitely challenges. For one thing, it needs to be constantly updated. The market's constantly changing, so your data needs to keep up.
Makes sense. So we're not talking about like a one-time download and you're good forever.
Not at all.
Okay. So what else? What other challenges?
Well, data quality can also be an issue. You got to make sure your data is actually reliable. Different providers might use different methods to collect it, so finding a source you trust is key.
Okay, so using FMV effectively means what? Like being really diligent, finding good sources, and staying up to date.
You got it.
All right, so we've talked about the challenges. Now let's get to the good stuff. The benefits. Can you give me an example of how using SMV data has actually led to, like, tangible cost savings in a trial?
Oh, absolutely. One great example is in patient recruitment. A trial team, they realized they were overspending on some of the recruitment channels, right?
It happens all the time, yeah.
So they took a look at the FMV data, they analyzed it, adjusted their strategy, and what happened? They significantly reduced their recruitment costs without impacting enrollment targets.
So they got the same results, but spent way less.
Exactly.
Wow. That's pretty incredible. And that all ties back to what we were talking about earlier, the proactive planning, right?
100%. FMV data, it allows you to anticipate those cost fluctuations, which means you can potentially save yourself a major budget headache later on.
And who doesn't want that? Fewer budget overruns, more efficient use of resources.
Yeah.
It's a win-win, right?
Absolutely.
So for our listeners out there,
Yeah.
how can they actually start incorporating FMV data into their work?
There are specialized software platforms designed just for clinical trial budgeting, and they incorporate FMV data directly into their calculations.
Oh, wow. So you're telling me that there's software out there that can essentially do all of this for you?
Well, it can certainly help. And taking the time to research those options, well, it could be a game changer for your financial planning process.
It's like having a crystal ball for your budget.
Yeah.
And that actually makes me think, so we can predict costs with this level of accuracy. Couldn't we maybe use a similar approach, a similar data-driven approach for other parts of trial planning?
Like what?
I don't know, like timeline management maybe, or even risk assessment.
That's actually a great point. The possibilities, they really are vast.
Yeah.
As we keep gathering more data in the clinical trial space, who knows what other insights and improvements we might find. It's pretty exciting.
It really is. So for our listeners out there, if you're involved in clinical trial finance, do yourselves a favor. Dive into the world of FMV data. It could be the key to smoother, more successful trials.
I agree. It's definitely worth exploring.
Thanks for breaking it all down for us.
My pleasure.
And to all of you listening, thanks for joining us for another deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you then.